Hi, today I'm going to tell you about the day I had morning tea with a ghost. Can you believe it? A police officer, 22 years in the police, telling you a story of how he fell in love with a ghost. It's certainly a good story, so let's get into it. On this particular day, I was working out of the forensic section at one of our major police stations. My last 8 to 9 years in the police was being a forensic officer, a SOCO, what they call a SEMA crime officer. We covered mainly volume crime, break-and-enters, all that sort of stuff. The major crime ones went to the more senior and highly trained up forensic officers, but we looked after the bread and butter things, the SOCOs. On this particular good day, I got to work. Whilst they're sorting the jobs out for the team, there's 5 of us in the team. The rest of the guys rostered on that day wanted to go locally to jobs, and there was one job a fair way away, about an hour's drive, but still within our district. It was a break and enter into an old dental clinic apparently. Anyway, I rang up the local guy and told him I was going to come up there and have a look at the break and enter into the old dental clinic. And he laughed and he goes, well, that'll be some fun for you, I can assure you. And I said, well, why? What are you saying about it? He goes, no, nothing. It's just another job. So after hanging up from him, grabbed a can of Coke. Must have a can of Coke every time I leave a police station. Grabbed a can of Coke and a Mars bar. That's something I used to do as a ritual, basically every second hour during the day. That added to my weight problems, which take me a long time to get rid of now. That's another story. Anyway, this break and enter was into an old dental clinic and residence above. I remember driving past it a few times throughout my career and thinking of how weird it looked, this unpainted sort of half breaking down home, smack bang in the middle of the CBD of this rural town. But anyway, off I went. Nice little trip on the country roads, beautiful sunny day, cruising along, listening to the radio. And when I finally got up to the town, I remember the local police officer saying, just drive into town and you'll see it on your left, you won't miss it. So I did that. And as I was coming up to this old house on the corner, I could see it was the one he was talking about, totally unpainted, boarded up, all the windows were boarded up, looked very unkept in the yard. The front wall was falling inwards into the yard. It was a big mess. But I was to get a big shock because someone had put this big red ribbon about 60 centimetres wide all the way around the house, like it's a big gift. I was gobsmacked. I thought, what's going on here? Someone having a shot at me again, because in the police it's a lot of practical jokers, and yeah, I think it was my turn to get hammered with a practical joke, so I was a bit wondering what was going on there. But then I looked at the trees in the yard, and in the trees there was presents, there was gifts hanging off the trees on little ribbons, like a Christmas tree. And I thought, what the heck is going on here? Anyway, I parked my car around the front, got all my gear out, went to the front door, but it was all boarded up, so that's no good. So I walked around as a corner block, I walked around the side, and just to the back, the next residence to the rear of these premises, there was a gentleman washing his four-wheel drive, a nice little white Suzuki four-wheel drive. So I said good day to him. I said, mate, do you know how I can get in to see the occupier here? And he said, oh yeah, the young lady's in there, but she's probably got the music turned up fairly loud. I think the back door's part open. So I walked up to the back door, which was part open, gave it a fair sort of police knock, bang, bang, bang. And then a few seconds later, this young lady came to the door. Now, as soon as she came to the door, I felt this feeling that I have never ever felt before. It was a feeling of warmth, love, extreme positive energy. And I felt like I should just throw myself at this young lady and hug her. It was just the most extreme experience I've ever had. But anyway, I introduced myself and she introduced herself, and she asked me in. When I got inside, it was a very dusty mess inside, although she'd cleaned the kitchen area up as a place to sleep at that point in time. She had a lounge that folded out to a bed, and she had a lot of foodstuffs there, so she set herself up. Before I did the job, which is a break-and-enter, she said, would I like to have some tea and scones, because she just made them. And of course, I like to help the police force's image by being friendly. So I took up her offer of tea and scones, coffee and scones, and we sat down in front of this window looking out over the mountains. It's idyllic. We got talking, and she told me that that place there was one of the original places that were built in the town. It was built on the Cobb & Co stagecoach route, and it was that and a hotel was the first couple of buildings in the town, apparently. So it'd been around for a long time, and apparently been in her family all that time. They were come from Indian descent. She went on to say that her grandfather had given her the keys and basically said, do what you want with it. She was training to be a dentist, and she thought she might come up there while she's finishing her course, get a dental practice set up in this house and take it from there. She also said maybe upstairs, when you could get upstairs, because the stairs were all falling apart. I wouldn't go upstairs the way it was, but she said upstairs she thought she might be able to turn those rooms into professional rooms for a masseur or a chiropractor, something like that. So we had a big discussion about what a big job it'll be ahead of her, and she was so incredible, this girl. She had like this super strong magnetic aura. It's something I've never felt before in my life. People talk about chemistry. That was a bit different to chemistry, I think. It wasn't that sort of feeling, but certainly an intense feeling of love and acceptance, which is the only way I can really describe it, because it's not something you can describe. Anyway, when we finished having morning tea, she showed me to the door, which she thought they'd got in. We had a look around. I found some items to keep for DNA examination, and I did develop a couple of fingerprints at the point of entry. So I went around doing my normal job, recording everything, photographing everything, putting the items for examination to be sent away in special sealed bags. And when I'd finished the job, packed everything up, told her, we did the best we could to try and identify who'd broken in, and wished her all the best with the house and with the new business. And she helped me back out to my four-wheel drive with my forensic gear, and we parted and said goodbye. And once again, during that time of saying goodbye to her, it's almost as if I was dealing with an angel. She had this intense, super intense magnetic feeling of love. It's so bizarre. Anyway, I got in the car and I drove up the road to the park. I sat under the tree in the park and I completed all my notes from the scene, got everything tidied up, then headed back to the police station. So when I got back there, booked all my exhibits in, went upstairs to see the rest of the guys in the forensic office, and I told them about my experience with this young lady in this dental clinic. And they thought it was very funny, and nothing much more was said. Then, about 10 days later, we didn't have much work on, and we were one vehicle short because one was in getting serviced. So I decided to jump in a vehicle with another senior crime officer, and we do the work together, get through the work twice as quick. If anything else come over the air, we grab that. So the first job was a job up the valley, up in the mountains, and we're going past that old two-story weathered dental clinic. So I told my offsider about it. I said, remember this job I was telling you all about, rah, rah. And he goes, so why don't we pop in and say hello to her? And I said, yeah, well, that's good, we can do that, we've got plenty of time, it's good PR. We'll pop in and say hello, see if she's had any information given to her about who might have broken in. I thought it was a fantastic idea. I told him about the presents, the ribbons, the windows all boarded up and all that sort of thing. He was pretty keen to go there because he's a single bloke, and I think he thought to himself, oh, I might meet this nice girl that Michael's talking about. Anyway, as we pulled up this house, it looked even worse then than it did 7 or 10 days before when I was there. It just looked like it's falling down. All the windows are boarded up, the doors are boarded up. But I said to John, I said, just park around the side because there's a back door there. That's how I got in last time, through the back door. So he parked around the back, and you wouldn't believe it, there's this fellow, the next resident over, washing this small white Suzuki 4-wheel drive. Exactly the same as when I was there before. And I remember thinking, gee, that's odd. This fellow's doing exactly the same thing today as he was doing when I was here 7 or 10 days ago. But I didn't let that throw me off again. So I went up to the back door, and the back door was all boarded up. Now it's boarded up to the point where all the nails are rusty and bent over, and it's quite obvious that this back door hadn't been opened probably for decades. And I thought to myself, hang on a second, this door here is the same door that I walked through 7 to 10 days ago. And I started thinking, what am I doing? Am I going mad or something? Anyway, the guy was there washing his 4-wheel drive. So I said good day to him, how are you going? Because we're in our full specialist outfits, police, he knew we're police. So he said he's going, well, the girl that lives in this old house here, do you know where she is? And he stopped washing his car, and he's looked at me, he's going, what do you mean where she is? I said, well, I was here about 10 days ago. I spoke to you. The back door was open then, and there was a young girl in there in her early 20s sorting the place out. I said, so do you know where we can contact her now? And he stopped and put his sponge down and looked at me. And he said, mate, in all honesty, I've never seen you before. We don't see police around this area much because there's only 1 or 2 police officers, and they tend to get dragged into work at the major stations, so we're left high and dry. I said, but I spoke to you. You were washing your car as you're doing now. I couldn't get the words out. I was dumbfounded. I spoke to you 7 to 10 days ago when you were washing your car here, exactly as you're doing now, and you told me the lady was inside. She plays the music fairly loud so she might not hear you, but use the rear door, which is what I did. And he goes, no, mate, he goes, I don't know, you're thinking of somewhere else. He goes, but those premises, I haven't seen anyone there probably for the last 10 or 15 years. It used to be an old dental clinic. It was also used as a mini hospital at some stage as well. He said it was on the old Cobham Cove stagecoach route at the time, he says, it's got a lot of history in it, but it's a mess. Like, no one would ever go in there. The way it is, it's unsafe. And I said to him, so you're telling me I've never spoke to you before? And he said, that's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm telling you. I've never spoken to you before. By this time, my offsider is just about in stitches laughing at me, rolling in the gutter just about. He thought it was hilarious. So I thanked the gentleman, and we had a look around the house, and it was all well and truly boarded up. And when I looked in part of the window I could get to by peeling one of the boards back, I looked in the kitchen. It was just probably absolutely covered in dirty filth. There's a couple of old bird skeletons on the floor. Everything looked like it hadn't been touched for 20 years or more. And yet I sat in there and had tea and scones, or coffee and scones, I can't remember which one it was, with a young lady who the fellow behind now says he doesn't know me and doesn't know any young lady. So anyway, we got back in the police car and I sat there, and my officer said, mate, I don't think you just dreamed that up. I said, no, I didn't. I did not dream it up. He said, you weren't taking any of those drugs, were you, or you weren't taking any cannabis or anything? He thought it was hilarious. He was rolling around the ground just about laughing. And I said, mate, look, in all seriousness, like I swear on the Bible, what I'm telling you happened. I said, anyway, I've got records of it. I've got my examination book, and I've got records where I booked in the DNA objects, and I processed the fingerprint. That's all back at the station. I'll show you that when we get back, and we'll talk more about it. So we continued on with the day, eventually got back to the station, went up to our office to do the paperwork, and my officer reminded me, he goes, hey, you're going to show me that job now that you went to? Bring it up on the computer or something, we'll have a look. Yeah, no worries. I thought, this is good. I'll finally show him that I'm not, I haven't gone mad, and what happened definitely happened. So I looked up the address on the police system, looking for the incident, the reported incident of break and enter, and there was no incidents there for about 10 years. There was no job requests for the forensic people to go and have a look at the problem. There was no incident recorded at that address at all. So by that stage I was starting to question myself. I grabbed my forensic exam book, which is an accountable book, which means it's signed out to you, it's numbered pages, you've got to get the pages countersigned, and eventually you sign it back in to the police station and it's filed and kept forever, sort of thing. Anyway, I went through my my forensic exam book and no entry. I thought, what's going on here? No entry. Then I thought, oh well, maybe I've grabbed someone else's book because this one was running low on pages. And you're quite entitled to use someone else's book. It's just, yeah, it's just a matter of jotting down their number of their page and referring to their book. You know, we've all done it. Probably not a fantastic way to go about things, but it was what people did every now and then. Anyway, I had a look through the forensic database where all the DNA items waiting for examination sit on a spreadsheet. Nothing. I looked up the fingerprint results. No fingerprint match to it. Then I went down to the bottom part of the police station where the inquiry counter is, the main body of the police station, and I went to their examination book and I ran through the examination book where I booked the DNA in, where I book other items in, items of interest that go towards showing a crime's been committed. Nothing. So I grabbed the exhibit officer and I said, "Mate, can you do me a favour? Can you have a look at my outstanding exhibit matters for me, please, and see what I've got?" So, sure, yeah, no worries. So he's opened up his spreadsheet system, dragged up my name, and there was nothing outstanding under my name that needed examination for DNA, fingerprints, or photographing. I had no outstanding jobs I'd caught up. But there was no job at all logged in his system, and no exhibits, no nothing under my name. So I'd been to this place, I'd done the examination, I'd spoke to this young lady, had morning tea with her, took some exhibits back, and yet there's no record anywhere of me attending the job in a vehicle diary, no record of me attending there in my forensic examination book, no exhibits waiting for DNA analysis or waiting for detectives to check over what I had to see if it fitted in with anything else in the case. No record of any of that at all. Nothing. So the job never happened. But the job did happen 100% the way I just explained it to you. I don't know what happened. My friends think I was either having a dream or something, maybe parked under a tree having a bludge, and I dreamt it all up, which I did not. And that fellow who I'd spoken to said he'd never spoke to me before in his life. It's just a mystery that I'm never ever going to be able to solve, I don't think. It wasn't a scary incident. It's not something I'm frightened of or think about in a negative way, because whoever I was speaking to was such a kind, loving person that I'd only met one person like that in my life, and that was her. The only thing I can think of is that she must have been an angel. I was going through a bit of a rough patch in my life there. I didn't have any energy. I was quite depressed, so PTSD. And after dealing with her, I felt really refreshed, full of energy, the happiest I'd been for months. But that's my story about dealing with the paranormal, with a ghost, but certainly a job that I will not forget in a hurry. Take care, and I'll see you on our next episode.